are all full of authentic points of view. Myself alone have at least 22. They come from the things that we have been through. Those things can either make or break you. Life is full of ups and downs. It's our choice to either smile or frown. Please choose to smile today, because it's one thing that's free to give away. People say that life isn't hard, it's what you make of it, but what if only struggle surrounds you? What can you take from it? Life can be hard and some things aren't fair. Please listen to others just to be aware. All I'm saying, you never know what someone's going through. Just because they look happy doesn't make it true. Hopefully this podcast will help you see you are not alone, you at least got me. We are more alike than you may know, but if we stay quiet, we will never grow. Don't ever give up, because you got this. If you quit, think of all the opportunities that you could miss. Hey everybody, and welcome to Authentic Points of View. I am your host, Danielle Boer, and I'm so excited to be here. Woohoo! Alrighty. So I'm excited about today's guest for several reasons. But you'll find out. Okay, it's a mystery. No. All right. Matthew Gray. He is a chef, metabolic health specialist, entrepreneur, advisor, interview consultant, author, journalist, there's a lot of stuff. Food tour creator. He was a radio talk, like a show host, menu development person, and a life coach. So many things. That's so amazing. He's got me beat with the titles. I love it. Welcome, Matthew, to the show.
You know, it's a lot to fit onto a business card, Danielle.
You need 3 business cards to put all your time.
Exactly. Forget the business cards. They're like a thing of the past. But thank you for getting me up in the wee hours of the morning here in Honolulu to join you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, what time? So let's see. I was born at 5 p.m. there on August 23rd. So you're 8 hours ahead. Is that correct? Or
of
behind?
What? Of where?
Of me? Of where? Yeah, where in the world? Eastern time.
It's 8:10 in the morning here now.
Okay. 8, 9.
Now you guys on the mainland.
Hours.
You guys on the mainland, you switch your clocks twice a year. Here in Hawaii, we don't touch our clocks. We just set them and leave them alone.
Oh, neat.
There's no daylight savings. There's no, standard time. Hawaii is just Hawaii time. It's its own time zone, HST, Hawaii Standard.
Oh, well, thank you for teaching me that. That's something I did not know. Wow, that's interesting. Yeah. All right, so you're actually in Honolulu. Oh, that's so cool. That's where I was. Well, many moons ago, because I'm 40 now.
Oh, yeah. You were born here, right?
Yeah, I was born in Honolulu, and we said, the Pink Hospital is Tripler, and so was my brother. And the funny thing is, they use this bear backdrop for some reason. So in school, I was in Maryland, and I remember we had to do a project where we brought in baby pictures, and some of my friends were born in the same hospital as me, and we didn't even know until we brought in the baby pictures that had the same exact backdrop. So
yeah, that Tripler Hospital is the big Army hospital here on our island, and it's pink, just like you said. You can see it from miles away. And during World War II, when the Royal Hawaiian Hotel was building, they're called the Pink Palace. But when they were building that hotel, they kind of reached out island-wide asking anybody if they had some paint. And it turns out the Army had some surplus paint from the hospital that you were born at. And so the Royal Hawaiian Hotel utilized that same pink color paint from the Army to put on their hotel. Now they're one of the most beautiful, well-known, and famous hotels in the world.
That's so awesome. Oh,
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that history about Honolulu. Yeah. So I always love finding out stuff about it, because it kind of reminds me of things I don't remember, of course. And my brother was a baby, but my brother and I were born there. My brother passed away. So like any connection with him or with us makes me feel good and makes me happy. So, and like I said, I've had a lot of friends we're all military brats and that were born in the same hospital. So it's just very fascinating that it's like literally people that, are even native to Hawaii would know that hospital just because of, like you said, the pink and that you can see it. Because you can ask people from any, like if I go to Germany, so I lived in Germany, but I could say like, do you know such and such hospital? They'll be like, probably not, because it's on a base, but definitely the pink. Woohoo. That's so cool.
Well, it's interesting because most people think when they think of Hawaii, they think of hula girls and pineapple and grass skirts and things like that. So only a small amount of us know that hospital that you were born in.
Oh, awesome. Well, yeah. Well, I'm glad that you know it just so we can talk about it. Thank you for doing that.
Sure.
So you have had a fascinating life. I love it. And we're going to talk about some things that's like so exciting. And you really have done so many things. So you have a lot of hats that you've worn, per se, I guess I say. And so one of the things that's very fascinating is who did you tour with and how did that opportunity come to play? How did it come?
Well, that's a good question. That was right out of high school. I went on the road with the Eagles on their Hotel California tour.
Wow.
And then I went on the road with Fleetwood Mac and Pink Floyd, Supertramp, Rolling Stones, many of the bands back in the day. And that was something that was very interesting for a young boy to be right out of high school doing this kind of thing. So I got to live the whole drug, sex, and rock and roll world for a number of years. I kind of got that out of the way before I grew up.
Sheesh Louise. So
yeah.
You were what, 18? Were you 18 yet? Or when you
I wasn't even 18 yet. I left high school early to go on the road. I was a bit ahead of my time as far as my maturity level. So I had a really good opportunity to go out there, and my folks were fine with it. They thought it might be a good opportunity, and it kind of kick-started and got my life going.
Wow. So when you toured with the bands, like what roles did you play? Like what was your job?
My initial job was doing merchandising for them. So any of their licensed merchandise I was in charge of, and running the tour group's sales crews around the country. So we got all their licensed merchandise. We set up at the arenas. We set the percentages. We did all of that kind of business stuff. And then we dealt with the public who were coming to the concerts.
Wow. That's really smart for a young age that you were in that world already and understood that. Wow, that is awesome.
Well, I didn't create that whole environment. I was just asked to come aboard, and when I started to do it, they said, "Hey, this kid is going to be okay." So, I broke up bar fights when we weren't at the concerts, and I bailed up my guys out of jail, and I bribed cops and anything to just keep the engine moving forward. So it was a pretty wild life. Working with the rock band, staying in the same hotels as them, all that kind of thing. So people think that's kind of fascinating, and now that I look back on it, definitely I can feel that.
Yeah, well, in the moment, I talk about this a lot. Like in the moment, you might not realize like how, good or bad the situation, that was pretty cool and good, or like how much it could change your life, or what a great opportunity it was, or how like amazing, and everybody's like, that's so cool. And like at the time you were just living it, right? And you're just like, da-da-da, and that was your normal. But
right.
Wow, that is pretty cool. That's exciting.
All of my buddies back home in LA had, they graduated high school and did whatever they did. And here, I was on the road with the rock bands, and so everyone thought that was pretty cool. And now that I look back on it, once again, I was living a very uncommon life.
Yeah. So I think this is not to be mean, but like a lot of the stuff that you've done is not, I'm not going to say uncommon, but is different. And so that's the awesome thing, is that you really have a creative mind, which we'll talk about, because you come up with a lot of awesome things. Mm-hmm. So where did you go to culinary school? How long have you been a chef?
I was born in New York, lived in New York till the age of 10 when my family moved to Los Angeles. Now, they didn't tell me right away, but I eventually caught up with them. And then in 1993, I moved here to Hawaii. So that was how I began. I can't move any further west and still be in the United States. Um, But when I was on the road with the bands in the late 70s and early 80s, I thought, well, what am I going to do when I'm old and gray, like when I'm 21 years old? And I decided I was going to go to school to learn to become a chef because I'd always loved food when I was a little kid. I used to follow my mom around the kitchen when I was a real little boy, like 3 or 4 years old. And I'd use our pet dog Happy as a step stool to see what mommy was cooking on top of the range. So I always had this thing for food and flavor and aroma and plate architecture and stuff like that. And then I thought to myself, look how good we all feel when we eat. And eating was the key to my world, and like breaking bread and being able to communicate with my loved ones and my friends. So I went to London and went to the Cordon Bleu Academy.
Wow.
And got a pretty nice degree there, and decided that when I was done with the rock and roll world, I'd return to Los Angeles and start cooking. And that I did. I was one of Los Angeles's youngest executive chefs, and I hired an agent in LA to get me gigs with private people. So I started then cooking for some of the rock bands that I traveled with, and people like Robin Williams and Heather Locklear and people like that. So I became a personal chef to a lot of folks in Hollywood. And that was, that really began in the 80s. And that's when I was doing all of that. And I was just plugged in with food and flavor and making people feel good. So I'm one of those people pleasers, and I do it through food and personality.
That's amazing. Yeah, you can really connect people together with food and different cultures. And it's just amazing. So I cannot skip past the fact that you just said Robin Williams. So how was his personality? Was he like that over the top, like funny guy, or was he really quiet in real life?
It's curious that you ask that. People ask that all the time. A lot of the people like Robin Williams, Dan Aykroyd, folks like that who are major comedians are actually quite internal when you get them face to face like this. So they're rather thoughtful and quiet. It's only when the cameras are rolling that their personalities explode. But when you sit down with them, they're extremely conversational and thoughtful and deep and all of that. And so the night I was cooking for Robin Williams, near the beginning of that, I almost set his house on fire. And so that's one of the major fun things that happened when I was cooking in his kitchen. I added a little bit too much cognac to the steaks that I was going to be flambeing. I was trying to be a big shot and show off. So I had a little bit too much cognac, and boom, the pan exploded. My eyebrows got singed, and the flames jumped over to the drapes behind us and almost set his house on fire. So there were police and fire trucks, and just like the whole thing, it turned into a major thing. And that's a memory of mine from way, way, way back.
What a beautiful memory of that. Thank goodness it didn't burn all the way down.
Right. It's like, Matthew almost set Robin Williams' house on fire. Isn't that a great thing?
Oh my gosh. But that's
definitely
cool.
A memory.
I bet you he remembered you from.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, hey, how cool. And so that's funny. So like I do, I'm a comedian. And I was doing stand-up like 3 times a week, but I've had to take a break from all of the things that I'm adding on to my plate. But
right.
So I think that's fascinating. I am pretty much like this all the time, but not as, but yeah. So like what you see now, like my is me. So like I'm a nurse, and even last night, at the hospital, patient, oh gosh, I love him. I don't know what country he was from, but he was amazing. I love him. And so he goes, I love your energy. Your energy is so good. And I was like, oh, really? And then his wife said that to me on the phone. And I'm like, thank you. But, I'm not always like this. Being a nurse is rough. So sometimes I get kind of frustrated. But most of the time I have this same like, but yeah, you're right. A lot of the comedians, they're very much more like relaxed and just like, they just enjoy the life of not having to be this big, huge, like always entertaining person. So Yeah, that's so cool that you have that memory. I mean, again, thank goodness it didn't burn all the way down. Did he get
It,
mad or what? How did he respond?
he couldn't have been better about it. If shit happens,
Oh,
and he allowed for that, and we became buddies, and so. Thank you for
oh,
setting my house on fire.
oh,
So
no.
just it's one of the things that happens in life. I mean, he was a big boy, and I was a younger guy, and stuff happens in life. You just have to kind of roll through it, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the one thing that I would talk about, things that you can control, and that's something you can control is your reaction to things, and your reaction can make it way worse or way better. So yeah, so that was great. Aw,
I freaked out way more than he did, believe me.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, even if he wasn't famous, I would still freak out, right? Because it's somebody's
Oh,
house.
yeah.
And
I mean,
so
how often do you set someone's house on fire? Not very
oh
often, right?
my gosh. Well, I hope not. Unless you're an arsonist, but hopefully you are not
Exactly.
setting people's houses
No,
on
that
fire.
does not define me. That's not one of the positions I've held in my life.
Yes, I didn't see that in your bio, so no. Okay, so all right. Now, can you explain the uniqueness of your greeting card? You said you had a greeting card company, and how did you come up with the concept of using I think negatives of film or something? Yeah.
I've started a whole bunch of businesses throughout my life, always kind of going for the next creative, interesting thing. So the greeting card company was called Sublime Craftwork. And my partner and I, at that time, stumbled across a process, not when we were very high, I just want to mention, to be able to create artwork on exposed film. And from that became the most incredible abstract art that people had ever seen. And so I thought, well, this is very cool. Why don't we make greeting cards from these great designs that were coming out? Now, this was back in the day before the internet, when photographs and so on were on paper. They're
Yeah.
printed on paper, not on screens, on digital screens. So I thought this is a great process, and I started going around to retail stores and showing them our work and kind of hustling and saying, would you like to sell these in your store? And so that began the greeting card company. People really dug the artwork. We had the cards made up, and we were at, bunches of different retail operations and stores and gift shops. And that was Sublime Craftwork. And that was pretty successful. And that kind of led into art gallery showings and things along those lines. And which is unusual because I wasn't really an artist at heart when it came to design, but that got me into that world. And that was a successful enterprise for a while.
Oh, wonderful. How long did you have that company?
It was about 3 years. And it was a really nice, tight 3 years, and we were able to get into it, enjoy the process, meet a lot of people, and make a little money, and gain a little bit of notoriety during that process as well.
Beautiful. So I just have a connection to so a couple things. So my grandfather was a photographer and used film, and I used to go into his room. And when he developed the negative, so that's really cool. And then I became a photographer, all digital. My uncle is a photographer, but he started off film and now he's digital. So that's really cool. I love that. And my son is a cook. He will not go to culinary school because has very bad anxiety. And I wish that he would, because then he wouldn't. He's working 2 jobs now at one is a wing place and one's another place. And so I wish he would just, go to culinary school so he can, because he's so amazing. He makes his own sauces. Everywhere he goes, they allow him to change the menu unless it's a corporate. But if it's franchise, they allow him to make a special of the day. They allow him to make sauces. He is amazing. He was the president, with his really bad anxiety, was the president of his culinary club in high school. And so the thing is, though, he's also artistic. So he designed their t-shirts because he also did art. So that's really cool. I found a lot of chefs are very artistic and into many arts, into music and drawing and different things. So that's really amazing. I think it's that part of your brain, I guess, that can come up with recipes or do all that. And I have a friend that was a chef for, oh boy, a 5-star, what restaurant was it? I can't, a Michelin restaurant. And his husband started a soap company. So he left being a chef, and now they create all these amazing, now they're doing cosmetics and soap. And his recipes, he said that him being a chef helps him pair things together. And he said, I don't pair things that smell good together. I pair things that taste good together. And I was like, holy moly, like that's really awesome. And he uses them for scents and everything for his soap. So like that creative space is very impressive, and I love it. So, I just wanted to say, I love that I meet so many chefs that that also delve into art and everything, and they can use that, just the creative side of them for so many different revenues. So like you go and make money doing anything, like, which is awesome.
Yeah, most of us, in the cooking world are artists at heart more than business people. You don't fall into kitchen work or chefing work as a business person first. You always kind of go into it in a colorful way and a way that's very artistic. Only later do you learn about the business of the food world. And so I was fortunate to, run restaurants in the back from the kitchen and own restaurants. I created a restaurant in Rotterdam of the Netherlands. And
wow.
so, you should try to urge your son to go get a culinary education and dispense with his anxiety, because when he learns some of the business side of it, it's a wonderful balance to the creative side. And a lot of artists, a lot of people watching right now or listening right now to our show are probably very artistic, but they don't have the business wherewithal to be able to move ahead. It's only when you combine those two specialties that you can really start to run a business and be as successful as possible.
Oh, thank you for that. That's really deep and insightful. I appreciate it, because you're right. Anything you do has another side to it. So when you master both sides of whatever, or it could have many sides, but when you get all those aspects together, you're going to be super successful, because you're going to have an understanding, right? So when you have an understanding, the sky's the limit. Like you can just, and that's, I've been trying to tell him that, money things are an issue right now, because he has his own house. He's 21. And, but the poor guy is working 2 jobs again. And I feel bad, but I wish he could get through his anxiety. I want to help him, but he's 21. So that's not that he's going to listen, but, but yeah, so it would help him in so many aspects, like you said, business wise, because he wants to have a food truck one day as well. And he's actually part Japanese. So he wanted to do a Japanese American fusion food truck. And he needs the business side of that, of course, because the money and the budgeting and the food costs and the different suppliers and the, I'm saying, like, and the electricity to run, keep the food truck, everything. So it's a lot. Oh, that makes me.
I can actually help him if he wants help. I can help anybody who's watching or listening to us right now overcome their anxiety, their depression, help them get off of medications, how to reverse disease, because that's what my background, all my food world experience has kind of led to a place here in my life where I've learned about health and nutrition. And so I have a whole list of clients right now who I've been able to help them reverse their disease, like people with diabetes. There are probably a third of people age 65 and above who have type 2 diabetes. And for people below that age, the amount of people with type 2 or pre-diabetic has risen 95% in the last dozen years. So it's out of control and it's a killer. And so what I'm doing is I'm helping people learn about how to get well through their diet. So here I've gone this whole entire life of being an eater and cooking for people and helping people out with their whole entire, like, what's good in my mouth, now to helping people overcome disease and get well and get healthy and lose weight. So that's another amazing thing. I can do all these things for others, and that's really what I'm all about at this moment.
Oh, well, I might have to holler at you because I have to lose 100 pounds. So,
Oh, no
and
problem.
I've had issues with. So, for instance, I cut out meat for a while because I have very bad joint issues and the inflammation and everything. And then I kind of added some meat back in. I don't eat pork. I haven't eaten pork in maybe 7 months. I don't know how many months, but I don't really eat red meat. Every once in a while, I might eat a steak. That's the only red meat that I will eat. And it's like very rare, maybe like twice a year now. And then, but I just started adding back like turkey, chicken, but I don't even want to do that. I might take it away again because my joints are hurting again, but there has to be a different balance. I have to figure out something because I'm not getting enough protein and then I'm exhausted all the time. And so anyways, enough about me.
You know what,
But
Danielle, I can definitely help you. And you are in the medical world as a nurse. You, of all
yeah,
people, should really have your health together. And
yes.
just speaking from experience, I once was 100 pounds heavier than I am right now. So
Oh,
you said you want to lose 100 pounds. I will help you because I know how to do it. I understand metabolic health and the science, and I know how to create a diet for people. So I'll get you together, and you can then help other people. And anyone who's listening or watching right now, if you have questions, you don't want to be on your meds, you're tired of feeling slow or sluggish or anything like that, you can contact me. Just come to my website, hawaiifoodtours.com, and you give me a call or email me, and I'll help you out.
oh, yay. Thank you so much. That's so awesome because it's important. And they say that the cause of everything, like the root cause of everything is in your gut. So
That's
like
right.
literally so many
Right.
issues that you have start in your stomach. And so that's why I've got to get together. I actually have gastritis right now. And I was sick, so sick. Like I could barely eat and was having issues. We thought it was my gallbladder. That's the nurse side of us. We're like, it's your gallbladder. And I have kidney stones too right now. So, but anyway, and so the kidney stones, I cut out tea. I was drinking unsweet tea twice a day because it was like, I loved it. I don't know. And, I cut it out because it has, a lot of different things with calcium, some thing in it. I don't know what it's called. But anyways, it causes the renal calculi, which is the kidney stones. So I stopped drinking that. So I have to figure out, I need to drink more water. So that's important. Balancing all those things is very important. You'll have more energy. You'll feel good. You know, when you put the right food in your body, like you said, that helps your brain. You know, I mean, it just all ties together. So that's definitely awesome what you're doing. I appreciate it because
Yeah,
so
let
many
me have a
people.
shot at you, Danielle. Let me
Okay.
help you reverse your disease, get rid of your kidney stones, lose your weight, and then you can be a shining example for everybody. And I
Yay.
know how to do it. It's not about liquid. It's not about not eating meat. It's about eating the right food. And I know what the right food is. And you have to then be persistent and determined with your behavior to be able to get past it and to fight through it. And it will work because you're putting food in your body every single day. Most people don't eat right anyway.
Mhm.
I call
Right.
it the SAD diet, the standard American diet. It's all messed up. People are eating way too much sugar, and you have to cut
Hmm.
that out. That is probably the number one killer because it
Yes.
leads to everything as far as
Right.
disease. And you were talking about everything begins in the gut. Well, it actually begins at the food level, and then it kind of transfers to your gut. So I'll give you, ideas and recipes on how to improve your gut health and how to get everything that you need.
Thank you. Yes. I used to count my macros and I did really well with it. And then that's something that's hard though, because like measuring stuff all the time. And then when you have to be very persistent with it, consistent, like you have to. So I did really well with it for a while. I need to, like, I wanted to get back into it, but where I used to go, they closed down. So I don't have anybody to kind of figure it out. And like online, you can try to figure out your macros, your weight and your this and your that, your BMI, but like it's too hard. So, but anyway, but thank you. I will definitely talk to you about that. So,
Fantastic.
okay. So another interesting thing that you did was a company that was called Pamper and Dine. So it was like massage and fine dining. did you have like a set masseuse that you guys went together to every appointment, or did you find different ones every time, or?
Started Pamper and Dine with a girlfriend of mine who was a masseuse. She had gone to
Oh,
massage school. And then we thought, well, how can we combine our skills? And we decided upon a business that would bring massage and fine dining to our clients in their homes. So
nice.
Amy was her name, and she would massage you and your husband or whoever the people's house was comprised of, while I was down in the kitchen preparing them a pre-customized gourmet dinner. So after their massages would take place, they'd come out in their robes or whatever, and they'd walk into the dining room, and there I'd be with food that I was freshly preparing in the kitchen for them, and do the whole thing. So it was kind of only in Los Angeles kind of business, but I think now it would work again. And that business was super cool because we got to really take care of people in their home and be able to feed them gourmet food and treat them to a combination of things that they would never be able to get elsewhere. And I got to see everybody in Hollywood half naked, and which was kind of a fun thing. But it was a business that got us into People Magazine and National Enquirer and New York Times and CNN and all that, because it was just such another really creative idea, blending food and another kind of service. And my whole life has been in one form or another related to food. And so that was a whole lot of fun. Pamper and Dine. That was back in Los Angeles.
Oh, wow. That sounds really amazing and very creative, because I wouldn't have thought of that. But that's really cool. Like, you two do think, you're like, I do this. This is my specialty. This is my specialty. Bam. So that's really amazing. And it sounds fun. And like you said, like, they feel relaxed and then they get a good meal. And that's a great date night, because some people, maybe you can't afford to have like a gourmet meal or go to a fancy restaurant, but just to splurge on it and to have that experience is well worth it, And in LA, I'm sure everybody could probably afford it, but around here, we wouldn't be able to afford it.
It was, this is a business, I say back in the day, now I'm saying BC, before COVID. And when people had a couple extra bucks of spare money, but it was a very high-end service, obviously, when you have a chef and a masseuse come to your house. But it was a very cool experience for us to be able to do that, meet a lot of great people and have a lot of fantastic experiences, all related to food and pleasure and all of that.
That's so amazing. So when did you do talk radio, and how long were you in talk radio? Because you have a good voice, so that's really cool.
Yeah, talk radio was something I did. I always had a thing for listening to other people speak. I love it. Of course, when I was young, I listened to a lot of music, but music wasn't my thing as far as radio. It was more about talk radio. So I began listening to talk radio when I was in high school, and one of the people I listened to was a man named Michael Benner. And he used to talk about the human potential movement and being the best we could be. And I really loved the sound of his voice and how soothing he was and how smart he appeared. And I started calling some of the radio stations and speaking to some of the talk show hosts and asking them if they had any tips on how I could break in. Some of them invited me to the studio. And then when I started some of my businesses, some of them asked me to come in and talk about my businesses. And then one thing led to another. And during my life, I've been in one form or another in a radio. And this was once again before the internet. I was doing talk radio back in Los Angeles. And then here, when I moved to Honolulu, I did a show called Love Life Radio for 9 years. And so it's something I really love. I love connecting with people, and I love speaking to others and learning and educating and just all the different things that you can get when you speak to other people. It's really a nice thing to do. And now, being a guest on other people's podcasts is a great experience as well, like yours.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I love it too. So I was talking, actually, so somebody interviewed me today, actually. So for their podcast, and it was about grief, but I laughed because that's my normal self. So I was telling stories about my brother and stuff in, and I laughed, and then I felt bad because she was saying like, she listened to my podcast. She's like, I really like, how you are and how your energy is and stuff. And she's like, I really shouldn't be like that when we're talking about grief. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. I laughed. She's like, no, be yourself. But, my brother was very funny. So that's why I was like laughing. But yeah, so I love talking to people, but another person I interviewed, when I interview podcast hosts, we talk about how fun it is to be a guest because then you don't have to edit and stuff. We're like,
oh yeah, editing is
so nice.
You're right.
Yeah, it's so nice to be a guest. But yeah, I love talking to people. I absolutely love it. I'm starting, my whole goal is to start getting in schools. I'm in the Atlanta area. So Atlanta, Georgia, I'm starting to get into schools. I want to talk to the kids about, maybe, the effects of suicide on family, and controlling the, things that they can control if they forgive someone, the energy they allow in and give out and their reaction to things. And so a lot of these kids are, they might not have parents around, or their parents might be on drugs, or there's, maybe they don't have any money, or maybe their only meal is at school. And so those things are horrible, but how do we get through it and not let that take over us? Right. So there are certain things that I want to talk about. And so I love, I love talking, if you can't tell me. But yeah, I love guests like you that are so fascinating, and like literally you've just done so much. And we're going to talk about a little bit more. So I love talking to people like you because it's so cool. And I love showing the things that we have in common with each other, because you could be from, I've interviewed people from France, Canada, Australia, and we all have something in common. Canada. Did I say Canada? Yeah, I think I did. We all have something in common. So it doesn't matter where you're from. We're all humans, and we all have feelings and all do, experiences and stuff like that. So, okay. So
I think it's
thank
great
you.
that you're speaking to kids in schools, because if you can make an impression on them, it's so powerful and so important to be able to do that. And when I do public speaking, I'll go into schools and speak to young ones, but then I'll also go to the executive boards and speak before people who are business folks. And so, it all starts though when you're young and you're a primary caretaker. And if the primary caretaker is a teenage parent who doesn't know left from right, it's always nice to have a voice of authority and someone who can make a nice, lasting emotional impression on the kids. So that's one of the things that I love to do most.
Me too. I was a teenage mom. So I want to talk to them about not allowing other people to, oh my gosh, and I'm talking about boys. Okay. I allowed boys to control my thoughts of myself. The negative things that they told me. I dated a narcissist. Okay. And I had a kid with him. He was very abusive and all this stuff. And I allowed that to control what I thought of myself. And that led me down so many paths that, I was homeless when I had my second son, and I lived in a shelter. But so I want to go speak to shelters. I want to speak to kids. I want to speak to everybody, but I want to show them that, hey, look, it's okay. Now I'm a nurse. Now I'm this. Now I'm that. Where you're at right now doesn't define you. It's not going to be, that's not your destination. You're going to be okay. You're going to get through it, right? So that's the whole thing, is that when we try to help people, just like you want to help me, I appreciate it so much. It's because we have a passion, or we've been through stuff ourselves. And so when we're teaching, we want to show you, there's no shortcut in life, but if you can see the signs of, somebody that's trying to manipulate you, or you can see the signs of whatever, then maybe you can get out of those situations. And I talk about this all the time, and lots of my guests do. The traumatic things that happen can lead us to great stuff. Not that I want everybody to go through horrible things, but a lot of the things that have happened and have changed my life has been those moments, and so it's not always darkness, you're going to get past it. And so it's just the way you react to it. And I've been guilty of reacting to stuff the wrong way several times. But so that's the whole purpose, is to to just say, like, when I was a teen mom, they didn't take me serious. And that's frustrating because I was a teen mom that was very active. And I know a lot of my friends, with lots of us were. And so I have one that wasn't active at all. Her mom raised her kid. And when her mom passed away, she didn't know what to do. She still didn't raise her kid after that. She didn't know what to do. She was lost. And then I raised mine, and, lived on my own and all this stuff. But I needed help. You always need help. And I had boys, and I talk about this too. This has nothing to do with, this, but I go on a tangent, but I talk about you need the opposite sex. So I had boys and I'm a mom. I got people involved. Their counselors were men. Their, like the coaches, they helped me with so many things. If I had a problem, I had those men, the male coaches, talk to them because they understand. I don't understand what a little boy's going through, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know those things. So getting help from other people, and, none of us are perfect. None of us are perfect. So yeah, getting help from other people, advice, whatever, support, that's a beautiful thing. Be it like, even if you're a man raising a little girl, or vice versa, you could be a mom raising a girl too. It doesn't matter, but especially the opposite sex, you need that, like, community, you need help. And lots of women were like, we don't need no man, but that's not what it's about. You don't need a bad partner. Correct. Nobody needs a bad partner. I don't care if it's a girl and a girl, a guy and a guy, girl, guy, whatever. Nobody needs a bad partner. That's toxic. But what you need is love and support. It takes a village. So that's an important thing. But anyways, I went on a tangent, but thank you. So sorry. I'm passionate about it because it can turn out well. There's so many teen moms that, like, look at there's so many people in the NBA that were raised by teen moms. It's possible, but you just need help. Get help from someone. And I mean, not help, but like I'm saying, like, reach out if you need something. Okay. Sorry.
Well, that's a hard thing to do. People who are going through stuff,
I know.
Even at much lower levels. I mean, just think about when you don't hear from a friend of yours for a long period of time, you go, I wonder what's happening with Jill or Joe or whoever it might be. And it turns out that, you don't hear from people for a long time. And we're the same way. When we're not feeling good, we don't reach out. We don't make a call. We don't send an email. We just kind of crawl up into our little bodies and think about how bad life is, and so-and-so is not contacting me. What's wrong with the world right now? And people aren't reaching out. And that's just part of it. It's just like you have to realize where you're at before you can then take some steps ahead. And if you notice that you haven't heard from someone in a while, reach out to them and say, you okay? You doing all right? And then start the ball rolling a little bit, because otherwise people just kind of crawl into themselves and it's depressing.
Yeah, very good point. That's true. Just reach out to whoever. If somebody comes across your mind, it's for a reason. I'm very guilty of not doing it. I'll think about someone and then I don't reach out to them, but you never know. They might need you at that moment. They might be going through something so horrible that hearing from you might save them and might make them feel so much better. So that is an awesome point.
Good.
Yeah, thank you. So, okay. Now, food journalist and critic. So did you go from restaurant to restaurant, or explain, like, what is a food critic? Like, it's not like Ratatouille, right? The movie Ratatouille. Do you know what that is?
Well, Ratatouille kind of was an extension of, the food world and critique world. So yeah, I had a background, obviously, in food, and I've always been a writer as well. And I always wanted to be a restaurant critic because I thought it was the very best job in the world. So I worked for a couple of years in Honolulu just trying to get myself known to people there, and went into the newspaper and eventually got the job as the restaurant critic for Hawaii's largest newspaper. And because I have educated taste buds and experience in food, both in the front of the house and the back of the house, I became the restaurant food writer and critic. So yeah, I would go to restaurants 2 or 3 times and then put together a review of their restaurant, their food, their service, the ambiance, all of the various different things related to it. And then I would write it. I'd write my column, and it appeared, at least weekly, if not more. And it was just a great experience doing that. And of course, when you're a critic, you have to have journalistic ethics. So no one knew my identity at all. So I was kind of like living behind the scenes. And that was an interesting part of life also, to kind of living in the shadows. So no one knew I was coming, and no one knew who I was. And so they couldn't identify me, because had they known who I was, they would have brought on, the dancing girls and the lobster tails and champagne and stuff like that. And I didn't want any special attention. I just wanted to be able to experience each restaurant exactly the way anyone else would.
Yeah, awesome. That was my question. So that's good that you answered it. That they know who you were? So no, they didn't. So it's kind of like a mystery shopper, like you don't know who the person is. They just come in and shop and do a survey kind of, but yours is more in depth. So that's really awesome. In depth.
Although I would be the guy asking all the questions, like, is it fresh fish? If so, where was it caught? I would ask questions about the food. So they might have had their suspicions, but by the time I was sitting there at the table speaking with them, they didn't have enough time to prepare and figure out who I was.
Yeah, because I was going to say, because some of those aren't typical questions that everybody would ask. What time did you catch this? Was it at 9 a.m. or like, no, I'm just teasing. I'm just being silly.
You might have been listening to me.
How fresh is it? Did you just come off of the boat? I want to know.
Right.
I'm just being silly.
It's funny, people will ask interesting questions. Like my wife, Lynn, we went to an Indian restaurant one time. Oh. She's a regular person. She doesn't have culinary arts training, but she asked at an Indian restaurant, "Is your mutton fresh?" Like almost in the same breath, it was almost like saying, I suspect that you're serving unfresh meat. So it caught me by surprise, and I found it very funny, but it's a typical question, and it's perfectly legit to be able to ask people questions like that, but it depends on how you phrase it, right? And the guy said, of course it's fresh, it's like, fresh out of the freezer. So, but you just never know, right? So you have to ask good, specific questions, and that's what I got to do when I was critiquing for the newspaper.
So cool. Yeah. And that's the thing. If they knew who you were, then they would not be authentic. And so you wouldn't be able to really critique them, because it would be just like when Joint Commission comes to a hospital, everybody knows that my nurses that are listening, doctors, whoever, anesthetists, I don't know what you are. Even the EVS, everybody in the hospital knows when Joint Commission comes, that's when hospitals fix things. That's not the time to fix things, right? That's a mess. But anyway, that's the same thing. So like when they come, it's like, ooh, let's do stuff perfect and blah, blah, blah. But, it should be how it is.
Is Joint Commission an oversight committee?
Yeah. So Joint Commission actually is each state has Joint Commission. So Joint Commission is where they come into the hospital to basically critique. That's what they do, to make sure you're not doing anything wrong or unsafe. And there's a lot of there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. Joint Commission before COVID was different. And there's a comedian who's really good. His name's Nurse Blake, and he actually talks about Joint Commission so much. And he says, hey, when we were unsafe and didn't have the proper equipment to save our lives, you weren't there because it was unsafe for you. And I thought that was hilarious, because that's their whole job, to make sure you're safe. And they were not there when we were the unsafest, right? So, yeah.
I said everybody on their best behavior. When you have the Joint Commission looking over your shoulder, you have to act right.
Yeah, just like if, if food inspector, like the state inspector or something like that came, same thing. Like you're going to make sure you're checking your temperatures. You're going to make sure that you're wiping down everything and sanitizing and all that stuff. You're going to make sure you're washing your hands, wearing your gloves. The same thing. Cause I worked in restaurants as well. And, actually was a manager at a few restaurants. And so, but I started off like literally as a hostess, and then as a, waitress and a trainer, and then blah, blah, blah. And, so I've been through a lot too, but it's the same thing in food. if they come to inspect, everybody on your best behavior, make sure your apron's clean, make sure this and that, and just fake. So you should be doing it all the time. It's the point, but, hey,
Yeah,
whatever.
but no one knew I was there. As a critic,
That's cool.
You don't let them know, so no one can be on their best behavior. They have to be in their regular behavior.
Yeah,
and so that's why it's so cool to be able to experience places like this and see how they are doing everything. So you don't give them a tip off that you're there.
Yeah. I think that's really neat because, like you said, like you're seeing the real thing in action, live in action. So, okay, Hawaii Food Tours. You did that for a long time. So
yeah, from 2004 until the beginning of COVID in March of 2020.
Wow.
So it was a world famous business that combined travelers coming to Hawaii. And then what we would do is we would feed, educate, and entertain them on a daily basis. We talk to them about the culture, about the food, about the people, about the flavors, about the backstory of all the food and the state of Hawaii. So it was a wonderful opportunity for me because prior to 2004, that's when I was food writing and critiquing. So no one knew who I was prior to 2004. And then after 2004, everybody knew who I was, finally.
Oh, wow. That's so awesome. That's wonderful. So, okay. You are now a life coach, right? That's what you were trying to help me with. How long have you been doing that? Helping people?
Actually, not really. Not a life coach. Everybody's a life coach.
Okay.
It's like
everybody's a life coach.
Everybody's a life coach. Kids in their 20s, you see people trying to be influencers and life coaches. They have no life experience. How could they be a life coach, right? So you can't be a life coach until you've experienced life. So let's be real. What I do is I help people in their life, but I'm not a life coach. Okay. Right now, my specialty and my heart's desire is making sure that people are healthy. So we were talking about this a little bit earlier on. What I'm trying to specialize in is helping people with their diet so they can lose weight and get off medication and reverse their disease. And that is really my passion at this point, is helping folks move to the next step in a healthy way. Because just think about it. Are you on medicine right now? Yeah, probably, right?
I'm not.
No. So most people are. Ask around. I
know. Believe me, they're on like 30 to 40.
But you don't need to be, because you go into the doctor's office and the doctor takes your blood or looks at you and said, "Oh, I have something for your condition." You go, "Okay, what is that?" And he says, "Let me write you a prescription." They never ask you, what did you eat? What do you eat? What's your diet? Yeah. What's your background? So doctors don't know anything about nutrition and health, but they do know what they know. And when they want to write you a prescription, it's just getting you out of their office. What I do is I help people and find out what their issues are, what they eat, and what they'd like to do with their life. You want to be healthier? You want to get off your meds? You want to reverse your disease? Those are the things that I really feel passionate about now.
Awesome. So how long did it take you to lose the 100 pounds?
Oh, long time. In this past year, I went onto a keto-related diet, which is low carb. And so since January of this year to now, probably about 35 pounds I've lost. And prior to that, it took several years to lose the initial 40, 50, 60 pounds. So over my lifetime, and being someone who's involved intimately with food and feeding others and cooking and all of that, it makes it extra difficult. But I decided I was going to step up and I was going to get my act together. Even though I was treating you and others to food, I was going to get myself healthy. And so it's been a long range goal. But this year I've really, really kicked it in, understand now the science and the metabolic aspect of good health.
Yeah, it's a balance. You got to be careful because I know a lot of people that do keto, but I tried it and I ended up in the hospital for 4 days. So you have to balance everything. You have to be careful.
You can't
just in the hospital for 4 days because I had stroke symptoms because I cut out the carbs too fast. So I went from like eating 1 million carbs to eating no carbs or like 10 or 12 or something. And my body went into shock and they thought I had a stroke. And so I think I was even in ICU and everything. Like I was like really sick. And the only thing I could think of was like it had to be that because once they fed me in the hospital, I ate whatever they gave me and my body felt so much better. Like I could think again and I could I just didn't do it the right way. So my friend's done keto for 3 years and she's kept off, I think 130 pounds. So it's a good thing, but I'm just letting you know, you got to gradually go, whatever you do, you have to go kind of gradually. You can't go from 0 to 100 and then just think everything's going to go well because your body's so used to things. So it has to get used to not having it. Right. So, but yeah, so I do a lot of good things. I don't drink soda, never drink soda. There's a lot of good habits I have and I love vegetables. So I eat a lot of vegetables, fruit and stuff. I just need to, get it together. But so anyway, okay. Now, what advice do you have for someone, because you've started a lot of businesses, what advice do you have for anyone that wants to start a business, in any business, but maybe a creative business or culinary or something like that?
It depends really on who they are at their core. Are they artists at their core without business experience? Or are they business people like numbers crunchers and smarty pants with no creative? So usually that's what you're going to find early on. And if you can identify who you are, you'll then be able to identify what you need. So what I do when I do speak to people who are looking at, advancing their entrepreneurial career, their creative career, their business career, is I'm able to see what it is that they do need to combine that with. So I think it takes a little bit of self-introspection to find out who you are. And then once you've done that, then you'll need to speak to somebody or figure out what it is you need to add to it. Because then when you talk about a holistic approach, you need to have all of these things firing together for the utmost success and health and happiness.
Yep, absolutely. And health is important, mental health, physical health, all of the health, all the health.
Right. So, not only do I help people with their physical health, but I can also help people reduce their anxiety and their depression, which is, interestingly enough, connected to their diet and what they're eating. So when you combine all these factors, it's okay to reach out to people who have the experience. I've been around a long time. I have experienced a lot. And that's why I make myself available for people who want to just go the next step in whatever it might be, business, health, life, relationships, or anything else.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great that you're well-rounded. So that's really awesome. So you can help people in different aspects. And like you said, food is more related to things than we think because the sugar, cancer feeds off of sugar. So, I had a patient the other day. He was hilarious. So he is diabetic and he has, some kind of cancer. Oh, it's so sad. Bladder cancer. And young guy, 40 something. And he was making fun of his wife for her being so strict on his diet. And I was like, no, that's a good thing. You need that. It's good that she's doing that. And I talked to him about sugar and he's like, oh no, I haven't had sugar. He's had cancer for 3 years. And he was getting a biopsy to check on it. So he was saying, no, I don't eat sugar anymore. And I know so many people that have gotten through these horrible diagnoses by changing their diet. And it's so amazing. Like you said, cutting out sugar, all these things that have hormones in it and toxic things and all these things, really can change your life around. So that's so cool that you teach that.
When people talk about sugar, Danielle, I think that there's a major mistake that they don't understand. And this is what I help people with. People, when they think of sugar, they think of that white stuff. But sugar is not just that white stuff. Sugar is bread. Sugar is potatoes. Sugar is cereal. Sugar is pasta, rice, broccoli, starchy vegetables, on and on and on. And fruit is big time sugar. And it's very unhealthy. I haven't really eaten any fruit this entire year. I haven't eaten any potatoes this entire year. And my health is better. My mental clarity and focus is better. And is it brutal? Is it extreme? Yeah. But you know what? My health is also really, really good. So this is what I'm teaching people. Sugar is not just that white stuff you sweeten your tea with. It's everything that I just mentioned. So there are a lot of good foods and will get you right. And it's a devotion and dedication. It depends, you have to explain that to people so they emotionally get it. And then once they do, then you have to stay and remain focused on this.
Wow. Yep. And you got to be committed to it and just do it. So thank you so much, Matthew. Where can we find you other than you just said your website earlier, but is there any other like social media that you want to share or anything like that?
Well, you can definitely go to hawaiifoodtours.com. That's my main website. I also have another website called ultimateeatersguide.com. As a matter of fact, I just released a book called The Ultimate Eater's Guide, Hawaii Edition. For anybody who's thinking of traveling to Hawaii, it has a lot of great travel information, food information for people who are traveling here. And those are two ways you can definitely get a hold of me. And on those websites is my phone number and my email address, and people are happy and welcome to give me a call or email me with any questions they might have about any of the things we talked about today. So I'm happy to help. That's my life passion right now. So that's why I'm here. I really don't have a lot to sell except good health and happiness for most of you.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's important because without good health, you can't be happy and successful if you are in poor health. Believe me, I'm going through stuff right now that is very hard. So, you have to get that stuff taken care of to be able to move on. And mental health also, like clarity. Everything starts here too. So whatever your mentality is can shift your trajectory, right? So yeah, those things are amazing. You're awesome. I really appreciate you. It was wonderful talking to you. We have a lot in common, which is really cool. I love that. And I will look you up and look up your company and all this stuff. When I go, I have to go back to Hawaii. I have not been back since I was 2 years old when we left. So I want to go to Honolulu. I want to do like some kind of special thing for my brother. I don't know what it would be, just like in his memory as well. He unfortunately was only like 8 months old when we left, or really, really young. So, yeah, he doesn't know anything. Like there's not even a lot of pictures of him as much as there is with me in it. But, yeah, it's beautiful there. And like you said, it's so much more than just like hula and this and that. And so, if you can go see Hawaii, it's beautiful. And
see Hawaii, and before you come here, everyone, just Google me, Matthew Gray, Hawaii, and you'll see thousands of different pages and reviews on what I do and all the good things and fun that I can bring. So, and Danielle, you and I are going to be working together. I'm going to help you get your health together, and then you'll be a living example of all the great things that life can bring.
Oh, yeah, I'll talk about it all the time. Woohoo! I will. All right. Thank you so much. It was great talking to you. You have a fantastic day. And thank you so you're ahead of time, right? You said 5 hours. No, it's backwards. No, you're backwards?
Hawaii is earlier than the mainland. So yeah, right now it's 9 a.m. And so where you are, it's like what, 3 p.m. or something?
2. So I'm in the future. Yeah. So I like talking to people from different countries we're in the same country, but like France and them, they're in the future, and like Australia is really so I go, bye from the future. So I'm in the future. Bye from the past. No.
Right. I'm Matthew Gray in Hawaii. I'm in your past. Go back in time. Come back.
I know.
Danielle, thank you so much. And I want to say aloha to you and everybody who's watching right now. And just be sure to just Google Matthew Gray Hawaii. Go to hawaiifoodtours.com, and I'll help you out with anything you might need, from health to food and everything in between. Okay?
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Matthew Gray. You are awesome. Aloha.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Authentic Points of View podcast. I hope that something you heard today changes your point of view. If you would like to share your views, please email me at authenticpointsofview@gmail.com or leave a comment on Facebook at Authentic Points of View podcast. Remember, always be mindful of other people's journeys and have open ears
and an open heart.